The road to max begins now. This is 416 Hero, a 50 defense skim account created after my first skim became maxed and obtained all PVM mega rares in the game. With the added stat restrictions, I set my sights on the Inferno Cape and the Dishonest Quiver. Since then, this account has struggled to find a purpose, rotting away in the background as I reached even greater heights on the maxed account, like becoming a Grandmaster. Now, I have found a new purpose for 416 Hero, and that is to achieve the max cape once again. We're going to begin with Agility. This isn't my favorite skill, nor is it my least liked, but it is relatively slow, so I like to focus on this one first to give me an easier time as we get closer and closer to maxing. I think I'll be sticking with rooftop courses, and currently at 81 agility, that means the Relica course. We recently got done with the Fremennik Hard Diary, which not only gives us bonus marks of grace, which by the way, we don't actually have full Graceful yet, but it also nets us some bonus EXP as well, saving us from a few hundred extra laps to do without the diary. Some skills are going to be 0 time or as close to 0 time as possible. One such example is Hunter. We're going to be solely relying on birdhouse runs, which we will be doing every 45 to 50 minutes to the best of my ability anyways. Honestly, we're going to be missing a couple of those depending on the grinds that we're doing. But over the course of many different grinds, we're definitely going to be breaking it up by doing birdhouse runs all the way from 86 Hunter to 99. Currently, we're still working on magic birdhouses, but eventually we're going to transition to redwoods when we reach both the hunter and crafting levels. The road to max won't be a conventional one, as obviously the account is attached to this one, the maxed Grandmaster account. The bank has a lot of supplies available that I can transfer over to the other account, and even supplies that I don't have, I can help gather on this account. And let's be honest, the road to max is a long and sometimes not so interesting grind. So to break up the process, we can sometimes just do some raiding or just have fun on the other account while we're doing some low intensity or even AFK activities on 416 Hero. For right this second though, while I'm running the Relica course slaps, I'm also going to be doing some Zaya rune crafting for some blood runes. As an endgame Ironman, I'm always in need of blood runes, and while this isn't the most efficient way of getting it, it's very laid back, and it's good to do something rather than nothing. So while I've obviously reaped the benefits of feeding myself levels and experience, there are some downsides to the way this account has played out as well. For one thing, we're level 70 construction, which is not very high, and the POH is pretty much completely empty. Our Herblore level is also really low because, well, we just got the bare minimum to do Song of the Elves at that point in time, and all the potions we need, we just transfer from the maxed account to this account. So we're pretty low level on that as well. Another weird quirk is, for example, just earlier we did a birdhouse run doing magic log birdhouses. While we have the hunter level for that, obviously, we actually don't have the woodcutting level to even get magic logs, so that's another thing that's funneled on over. We'll obviously look to get our woodcutting level up eventually. Now, as our hunter level gets closer and closer to redwoods, we're also going to need to focus on crafting, because while we're sitting at just 76 crafting, which by the way, this account has Zenyte jewelry, but obviously when I got them, I just traded it on over so that the maxed account could make the jewelry. But even for training the hunter skill, which we mentioned that we're going to do passively over time, we're going to need to do crafting pretty soon because, well, we need a certain crafting level. Let's check right now for birdhouses. When we reach the hunter level for redwood birdhouses, we're also going to need 90 crafting to craft those redwood birdhouses. Right now, we're just a total level of 1,910, very far away from the max total level of 2376. So I don't have a solid game plan right now, and I'm just thinking out loud as to what I'm going to do. I have some ideas, obviously, and we are going to have to do some skills in a certain order just to ensure that we have the supplies to gain the actual levels. So in talking about crafting, we need to get that up obviously for the birdhouses, and also 99 crafting, it's just very nice to get early on. The fastest infinite bank to my knowledge anyways. I don't know if that's changed over the years, but it'd be nice to get. Well, how are we going to gain crafting EXP? This account is weird again due to the way things have played out. Typically, an Ironman would do a whole lot of seaweed runs and a whole lot of sandstone mining, something that I have not done whatsoever on this account. I got to 76 by cutting gems and whatnot, stuff that I already had available sitting in the bank on the maxed account. So, how are we going to get to 99 crafting? Well, I've been doing some digging. Turns out, in order to get 99 smithing, I already have all the gold ore banked to make gold bars. Once I have those gold bars, I think I'm going to use those gold bars for crafting EXP. So naturally, we're going to have to do smithing first and then crafting, if that's our game plan anyways. We are now just 15k EXP away from 82 agility, and we're 12 laps removed from reaching a 500 lap milestone. Now, how many laps would it take us to get from 80 to 90 agility? I mean, we're almost 82 now, but according to Wiki, it would take us 4,308 laps, and that's without accounting for having done the Fremnikard diary done. Now, I can't pinpoint exactly when I did the diary. I know I was somewhere in the middle of 81 agility, and I don't actually know how many laps I've done. But we can expect to do less than 4,308 laps, and even then, we have a ways to go. So let's keep chipping away at this, and we'll hit 82 pretty shortly. Won't be an hour. It'll be much less than an hour, in a couple of minutes, really. While we're on the topic of the diary, I always knew that it gave us extra marks of grace, but did anyone else know that it gave you EXP as well? I wasn't aware of that, and that was exactly why I didn't have the diary done right away. Because honestly, I know I'm going to have enough marks of grace for the Graceful set anyways down the line, and I'm not exactly in short supply of stamina pot, so it was never really a concern to me. But once I found out that you get extra EXP, well, I knew I had to get it done. Ooh, a sandwich lady. I still do not have the stale baguette on any account. And this time around, she doesn't even offer me one. A chocolate bar, I guess I'll take it. Consolation prize. Well, oops, I didn't quite catch us getting to 500 rooftop laps. We're at 501, and we're standing at the farming guild right now because we're about to do another birdhouse run. Let me show you guys a quick tip on what you should do for birdhouses, because if you're someone like me that doesn't like teething, which is precisely why I got the skill out the way early, that might seem backwards, but you know, now that it's out the way, I don't ever have to touch the skill ever again if I don't want to. But how you want to upkeep your seeds for birdhouse runs is, well, just have some coins on you, obviously, and every time you do a birdhouse run before you do it, just get into the habit of doing this. Come to the farming guild or even the Draenor village store. There's a seed shop there too. Speak to Amelia and just buy out the shop real quick, and because there's so many seeds in the shop, you will profit the seeds over time, no matter how many birdhouse runs you do. If you just do this consistently, they'll always keep up. Now, I say you want to do it every time before a birdhouse run because if you're also someone like me, I do not enjoy shopscaping, or more specifically like hopping worlds and shopscaping. So by just doing this every time, getting into that habit, you don't have to hop worlds, you don't have to thieve, and your seed supply is always going to be more than enough for your birdhouse runs. Eventually, you're going to build up a strong enough supply that sometimes you can get away with not purchasing the seeds from the shop and just go ahead and do your birdhouse run. I think midway through this course, we're going to be getting 82 agility finally. Might not even finish the lap. Lap 504 right here, probably. Yep, there we go, 82 agility. You can now enter 4th floor of the Hallowed Sepulchre and use the Lava Maze Stepping Stone shortcut and the Adept Asgardian Ice Dungeon Wyvern Tunnel. I would like to get into the Hallowed Sepulchre at some point, but I've never ever done it before. I don't know why. It's not particularly like an aversion to it. Like, I've seen it, it looks pretty cool, but doing rooftop courses is just very cozy, I suppose. I don't know. It's just something comfortable I know how to do. If anything, maybe one day we'll tackle the Hallowed Sepulchre on the already maxed account so that I can get the collection logs there. I also do think the Black Graceful is pretty cool, although I have the Colossal Worm one from Varlamore. As we continue with agility here, I would like to get into some more interesting things on the maxed account. As I mentioned, I'm currently doing some blood rune crafting, but agility is a bit of a tricky one. While it's not exactly high intensity, you can't really have a lot of downtime training agility either. Otherwise, well, you're just going to be standing around and not gaining EXP. So I'm not really sure what kind of things I could get into on the maxed account. Training agility is also the peak time to train fletching, so that it's actually 0 time. I have done this in the past, not only on a normal account all the way to 99, but also the maxed Ironman account as well. So I've actually done this twice over. Now, that leads me to why I'm not doing it right now. Honestly, I'm feeling a bit lazy on that, and we might look to do fletching the good old-fashioned way. Maybe string some bows or something down the line, do a nice cozy bank standing session. We'll switch things up a little bit, you know, having done the max and grind twice over, maybe on the third go around, we'll try to do some stuff that we haven't done before. I know that is a little ironic considering I just said I haven't done the Hallowed Sepulchre and I currently don't plan on doing it. But who knows, I could change my mind, but right now my mindset is still to do the rooftop agility courses. 650 laps completed on the Relicore course now, but we're going to head on over to the Rogue's Den in Birth Rope, and we're gonna pick up full Graceful, I think. I mentioned earlier that I actually don't have full Graceful yet on this account. I do have, I believe, 2 or 3 pieces. Let's go ahead and check the bank right now, actually, to see what our situation is. Graceful. Yeah, we do have 3 pieces. We have the top, the legs, and the hood. So we still need the boots, the gloves, and the cape. Let's see how many marks of grace we have at this point in time. 251 plus the 2 in our inventory, 253. That is definitely more than enough. We must have got the marks of grace a while ago, but I guess this is not as important these days, getting full Graceful, but we're going to go ahead and do that. So again, let's just make sure we don't get any dupes. In fact, I'm going to take these off so that I can see them in my inventory. Got to be very careful here, right? So we want the boots, the gloves, and I believe the cape. And that is full Graceful completed plus 3 collection log slots. Now this is the default full Graceful color, and what we're actually going to do is take a step back from the Relica course, and we're going to make our way over to the Colossal Worm, which I think I briefly mentioned earlier, and or maybe not, maybe I'm misremembering and that was just in my head, but the point is we're going to head on over to the Colossal Worm because that's actually the Graceful skin I want. Oh, and we have a whopping 143 marks of grace left over, so we could have got the full Graceful set a long time ago, I guess. Just a quick POV swap to wait for it here, and I'm going to transfer over some magic logs into the group storage. Again, these are the ones I'm using for birdhouse runs, and we're actually running very low on them. So let's just transfer, I don't know, like I guess a good 200 magic logs over for now. Chuck that into group storage for the future birdhouse runs. And then it's back to Zaya RC for now. I am going to look to do something else in the near future, but I think just for right now, I'm feeling real cozy at the Zaya runecrafting mines. We've made our way over to the Colossal Worm. If you're wondering how to get here, you can fairy ring to this one right here with AJP and then just run directly south. So here at the Colossal Worm, there's actually its own collection log that we can start trying to fill out here. And that's going to be the Colossal Worm Teleport Scroll, the Calcified Acorn, which I believe is a pet transmog. I don't believe I have the Agility pet on here, so hopefully we get that on the way to 99. And then of course the custom full Graceful set that's available here. You can unlock all of this by speaking to... Actually, since it's our first time here on this account, we talked to Wormtongue, I believe, and there's actually a couple of pieces of dialogue we got to go through before we can actually do the course. Okay, we just got this text pop-up, which is perfect. It perfectly explains everything. You'll need at least 50 agility to tackle the basic course and 62 agility to take on the advanced course. So yeah, there's 2 variants to this course. Now, this is much lower than our 82 agility right now. So yeah, we are going to take a hit with our EXP gains here. It's not quite as efficient, but in the name of getting this Graceful set, we're going to go ahead and do that for right now. We'll be moving back to the relical course once we are done, obviously. I'm curious as to how much EXP we're going to get, what level we're going to end up at by the time we're done with completing the full log here. So let's speak to Wormtongue again, and this time right-clicking Wormtongue gives us access to the shop, and this is where we're going to get the collection logs. We just hopped onto the course, and this part right here is where it diverges between the level 50 and the level 62. So I believe crossing this tightrope right here is level 50, and then going up this ladder is level 62. Now the colossal worm grind, I have done this one time before on the maxed account, and honestly, this grind was very enjoyable. This course is actually not very click intensive. There's a lot of downtime. You just have to click a couple of times, and I believe completing one lap on average is going to be about a minute. It's not going to show 1 minute once I finish this course right here on this first go, because I just spent some time standing there explaining to you guys how this course works. So yeah, let's see what time we get. I believe it shows PBs every time you complete it. So that was a 4-minute PB. Okay, that just exposed how long I just spent standing there for. But yeah, there we go. Second lap down, and that was a 59-second PB, which, if I'm not mistaken, is probably as good as it's going to get. Also, if we look just above that message, you'll see that it says, you managed to scoop up 15 termites. You also find 24 piles of bone shards. Now, the termites is the unique currency that's here at this course, and that's what we're going to use to purchase stuff out of that shop I just showed. And then there's bone shards here. So bone shards came along with all the other Varlamore region related things. You pretty much get bone shards everywhere, from perilous moons to the actual mining activity. And I think you even get them at Dumamoka. I could be mistaken. Actually, I think you get bones, in which you can obviously convert into bone shards. But yeah, the bone shards are going to be a nice bonus. Sooner or later, we are going to move on from the 63 prayer restriction, because otherwise, well, we can't be maxed if we're, keeping these restrictions on, right? So yeah, I guess that was actually not something I considered or remembered. I was just thinking of the termites. But yeah, that's very, very nice to have. And yeah, let's get to this grind. We're about 10 laps deep right now, so not far into it at all. But I just realized I failed to mention how many of these termites I'm going to need to greenlog this location. So we're going to need 40 for the colossal worm teleport scroll. We're going to need another 650 for the Graceful crafting kit, which is the #1 priority. That's what we are here for mostly. And then we need another 900 for the calcified acorn. Now, I don't think I have the agility pet I mentioned on this account, but I don't think I have the agility pet on the other account either. But yet, I went for the calcified acorn anyways. Maybe one day we'll get the pet on both accounts, or, maybe we should think about just one right now. But it's better to get the calcified acorn while we're here anyways, and then we'll worry about going for the pet sometime down the future. Or, it could happen at the end of this lap, who knows? It, in fact, did not happen at the end of that lap, and we're now working on lap number 60. Now, between now and then, I actually went ahead and did some Theater of Blood. I think longtime viewers of the series could see that coming. I always get distracted and get lured over to the Theater of Blood to pot some with the clanmates. Well, unfortunately, I got nothing to show for you guys because the loot wasn't all that great. But anyways, you might be wondering why I went to top on 416 Hero and not on the maxed account. Because that way I could keep myself skilling and progressing towards max, because it's such a long journey, and then still top, right? Kind of like have your cake and eat it too situation. Well, not exactly, because right now, my maxed account, wait for it, is sitting at exactly 1,000 Theater of Blood KC, and I kind of want to keep it that way until I reach the 2,000 cape. So right now on that account, I'm only doing hard modes. But when it comes to regulars, I'm just going to be doing it on this account. We just recently passed 100 laps on the Colossal Worm Agility course. Now, how many laps are we going to need to get all the termites we need to greenlog the place here? Well, according to Wiki, we get about 3.9 termites per lap on average, meaning roughly 408 laps required to accumulate the 1,590 termites that we need to greenlog. It is an average of 3.9, so we'll see if we end up being lucky or unlucky. And we're actually going to get a level sometime soon. 42,000 EXP remaining until 83 agility. About to close out on 157 laps, but more importantly, we have just hit 83 agility. You can now climb the Grimstone uneven stone ledges. Wow, that is actually a very new thing, relatively speaking, because that Grimstone Island is where all the frost dragons are located for the sailing skill. Anyways, we are up to 742 termites now, so we're over a third of the way, maybe even closer to halfway. I kind of already forgot how many termites I needed. I'm going to have to check the wiki again. But yeah, we're making good progress, and we're going to keep chipping away at this until we green log the colossal worm. Wow, 23 piles of bone shards in one go. That's probably on the higher end, but that nets us over 1,000 termites now. Which, by the way, earlier I said I forgot how many we need. That number is 1,590, so we're definitely like 2/3 of the way there. Honestly, this has not been a long grind at all, and we're probably going to be out of here before we even hit 84 agility. We'll be getting that back at the Relica course. It's been a little bit since we checked in on the maxed account, but we're still rune crafting, and I have a question for you guys. For any Zaya rune crafting doers or enjoyers out there, do you guys chisel, just click on it once and let the dark essence blocks get chiseled automatically, or do you actually take the time to manually do each and every dark essence block so that you get through the inventory quicker? For me right now, since most of my attention is on the other account, I just let it do its automatic thing. And speaking of the other account, let's check back into the Colossal Worm Agility course. Of course, we're doing the advanced laps right now, and as we said, it's going to take us about 409 or so laps to complete, or more specifically, to get all the termites we need to complete the course. Looks like we're on track for that, as we're up to 1,344 termites right now, and we're just under 300 laps. As a nice bonus, we've also accumulated over 2,100 blessed bone shards. Now, between this and the pile of bone shards we have sitting in the bank from thieving, I do wonder how much prayer EXP we get. I think with the prayer grind jumping from 63 to 99, we are going to have to go out of our way to collect some bones. Whether that's dragon bones or what, I'm not too sure at this point in time. We'll figure that out down the line. But something else we have to figure out is, I'm more than likely not going to do 83 to 99 agility straight up. I do want to find another grind to start on, specifically one that I can really just AFK for minutes at a time. So perhaps mining, maybe shooting stars. So those are things I have to think about and consider. But yeah, we have a long ways to go in terms of the road to max, because we're not even 2,000 total yet. Staying on top of the birdhouse runs has been really beneficial to break up the agility grind. Right after this birdhouse, we got another 13 more birdhouses until we hit level 87. So that's going to be just between 3 and 4 birdhouse runs to do. We're one step closer to maxing. It's crazy to say, because honestly, the more I think about it, I declared going for max stats so early on this account. We're not even 2,000 total level yet. I cannot stress this enough. We have a long road ahead of us. But what isn't a long road ahead of us is the fact that we're actually very lucky on the termites now. I don't know what happened, but we're currently on lap 347, and we are just 26 termites removed from getting all the termites we need to green log. In fact, I'm going to have to double check this, because I'm honestly a little surprised. Honestly, side quests like this are what's going to keep us motivated in the long grind to max. We easily could just do Relica from 80 to 90, but we figured, hey, we want to get the Colossal Worm specific Graceful outfit. Here we are, even though it's not the most efficient thing to do, but we just picked up 9 termites? What a tease. We need 5 more. I saw the red text here, 22 piles of bone shards, thinking that was the termites, but nope, that's not the case. We need 5 more termites. When people hope for good RNG in this game, I don't think they have being lucky on termites at this course in mind. And there we have it, another 9 termites, giving us a total of 1,594. Let's go ahead and finish this lap and then claim our rewards. And so we did 352 laps here at the Colossal Worm Agility course, advanced version. Let's go ahead and speak to Worm Tongue once again And let's get one colossal worm teleport just for the collection log. Let's get the graceful recolor. Well, actually, let's do the calcified acorn first. And then the graceful recolor. I believe I just buy one, right? Yeah, we just buy one, yep. Oh, well, we need to go get our graceful, so that was a little anticlimactic. I guess this works out. I don't plan on getting any more of these colossal worm teleport scrolls, so I'm going to go ahead and use the one I just bought. Come back with the full graceful. Let's get the graceful recolor. Boom, there is the full set. Let's put it on. Now, we already have this graceful set on the other account, but I like it so much that we're going to get it on both. Here we are. Well, with all that being said, as these collection logs pop up and close out, this is all the time I have for today. Again, we're not going to solely be doing agility, but we are going to try to focus that down early on, because agility is not exactly my most favorite skill, nor is it my least liked. So the sooner we get this one out the way early, also the fact that it's a very slow skill compared to some other ones, but the quicker we get this one out the way early, the more I can see the end line in sight, the finish line. Recently, I announced my intentions to max this account. Maxing an account is no small feat, even on a traditional main account for the first time. I've climbed that mountain not once, but twice before, and on the second go around, I did it on an Ironman. But you know what they say.
How about you touch some grass?
What? No, they say good things come in threes. While this account has the luxury of being attached to my already maxed Grandmaster and bank absolutely stacked to the brim group Ironman, we're still going to be dedicating thousands of hours into accomplishing one thing. Our journey starts with a grind that cannot be cheated, meaning no shortcuts. Wait, no, there will be shortcuts. It's agility. We're at the Relicore rooftops right now, but just recently we went to the Colossal Worm and greenlogged that. Don't worry, we're going to be splitting up the grind with other skills, and we're going to be enjoying ourselves on the already maxed account, PVMing and raiding to our heart's content. No, I'm not also skilling on that account right now. We've been staying on top of our birdhouse runs, and as such, we've made it to 87 Hunter. You can now catch greater sirens on Mulch Island with 91 fishing. Not too familiar with what that is, honestly, but the point is we've been staying on top of these birdhouse runs, and we're reaping the rewards, and we're going to continue to do this all the way up to 99. Someone just passed by and said, "Grats," I didn't even see anybody. I was too busy talking, zoomed in. Appreciate the fellow Gim. Not in my Gim, though. I'm by myself. Nevertheless, our game plan is to continue doing birdhouses all the way up to 99, but who knows, maybe sometime down the line, we're going to get some inspiration to do some other hunter content. For example, perhaps some herbivore here on Fossil Island. Back on my normal account when I first went for maxing the first go around, I did do a whole lot of herbivore and actually got the pet. It is a pretty cool one. However, on wait for it, the other Gim account, I did exclusively birdhouse runs. Just completed lap 777 at Relica, and it's lucky after all because I just got a genie and oh my god, you know what? The genie disappeared as I spoke to it, so I don't know if I ended up with the lamp or not, but we did. And we're going to be putting this into Slayer. This is going to get us to 88 Slayer. The Hunter level we picked up and then the Slayer level we picked up was just a few minutes ago, and then I noticed I was kind of close to getting an agility level, so I kicked it into gear, and here we are working on one more lap. Maybe even midway through, we'll be able to hit 84 agility. Honestly, I did not plan this at all, but it's pretty cool how it all worked out, and we're going to get a level in 3 different skills within a couple of minutes of each other. 84 agility, there it is. You can now use the Ironworth Dungeon Southern Shortcut and the Crandor Wall Climb. You know, honestly, the thing about agility shortcuts is more times than not, you really don't think about them. So me reading that I unlocked something, I'm like, how is that relevant? But shortcuts, like I said, it's like, they're nice when you can use them, when you come across them, but it's like not something you really game plan around. With a few exceptions that I can think of. Off the top of my head, well, one exception is you want to hit level 70 agility for the Taverley dungeon shortcut. That's like the only notable one that I can really think of at this point in time. Earlier I mentioned that we'd be getting ourselves into some PVM activities on, wait for it, our maxed account while we continue the road to max on 416 Hero. Well, what kind of PVMing are we going to be doing in question? I've made up my mind, at least for right now. This is what we're going to be doing in the meantime. We can just as easily switch to something else 5 minutes later, honestly, but I think we're going to do a good couple of 100 KCs here before we move on to something else. And you might have already been able to guess it based on the location I'm standing at, but we're going to be doing some Zulrah. Now let me explain why we're going to be doing Zulrah, but first let's take a look at the collection log. So we have 1,591 KC, we have all the relevant uniques here, the Magic Fang, the Serpentine Visage, the Tanzanite Fang, and even some Onyxes. But what we are missing is the Tanzanite Mutagen, the Magma Mutagen, and the Jar of Swamp. We do already have the pet though. Now getting these mutagens and the Jar of Swamp aren't really too relevant, they're just cosmetic, but it would be nice to have as well. You can see here I do have 4 of these visages, so it'd be nice to have both helmets, both Serp helmets. Now Zulrah is actually a personal favorite of mine. It's honestly the first PVMing experience I've really had, the first bossing experience I really had. The first boss I learned, and I definitely took off with that. The rest is history, as you say, later, many years later, becoming a Grandmaster. But this is where it all started, essentially. But beyond the mutagens and the jar, we are here at Zulrah for the regular drop table. Yes, despite all the nerfs over the years that the drop table has experienced, Zulrah remains a very, very good boss for Ironman to do, not only for its uniques, but the regular resources on the drop table as well. These resources provide EXP in herb lore, wood cutting. Okay, not wood cutting, I don't know why I said that, but I was thinking of logs actually, that's why I said that. Logs for fletching, birdhouses, and whatnot. I guess fire making too, if you want to include that. And I guess the list goes on and on. You just have to really pull up the wiki and look at the drop table extensively, but you'll see that there are resources for just about any skill there is. Alright, before I just put my head down and start chipping away at the KC, one more little note. Our inventory is very full right now, right? And what do we want to do? Because we actually still have plenty of supplies to keep going, being that we are in absolute max gear for Zulrah. Well, there's actually a bank chest, or a deposit chest right here more specifically. Then you go ahead and put away some stuff, and then that opens up room for more loot for your next KC. Trying to squeeze in one more KC before I hit the bank, but you can see in my inventory we have some pretty juicy loot. We got a magic seed, great for farming EXP, and it's also worth 100k, so maybe good for desk coffer if you're at that point of the game now. And there's dragon bones. While we are still 63 prayer on the account, we got to start stacking up the bones for the inevitable prayer grind. And then of course Zulrah scales are always nice. For me personally, it's more so for the anti-poisons or the anti-venoms more specifically these days rather than using it for my blowpipe. And a trident is essentially dead content for me now too, so yeah, it's really just herb lore. Also, my bank tack layouts or the inventory setup for Zulrah was absolutely archaic, so I had to do some adjusting on the fly here. We swapped out the sharks for bluefin tuna, and bluefin tuna is great because it heals for, I believe, 20, or is it 22? I think it's 22 actually. But not only does it heal for 22, it actually also gives like 5 prayer back. So this is absolutely perfect for content like Zulrah. I do have about 1,400 or so sitting in the bank right now, but we're definitely going to be burning through that, and we will have to do some fishing or trawling more specifically sometime down the line. But you know what? That's great. That just gives us something else to do, because these days I'm always searching for things to do, which is actually why we're on this road to max in the first place. For reference, the last time I did any Zulrah, I didn't have Confliction Gauntlets or the Avernic Treads. Doom Mocha did not exist. I probably didn't even have the saturated heart. In fact, I most definitely didn't. And extended anti-venoms didn't exist. And I think I was too much of a cheapskate to actually use divine potions. So a lot of things have changed over the years. We were pretty close to this milestone to begin with, but it's a milestone nonetheless. With that shadow cast right there, that nets us 1,600 Zulrah KC, some papaya tree seeds, antidote plus pluses, which are actually very nice. That's a nice drop for me specifically. And there's going to be many more KCs to come. And over on 416 Hero, we also reach a milestone. That was lap 900 here at the Relka course. A bit of a random thought here, but I think one of my underlying motivations to go on this maxing journey again for the third time is that this time around, I'll have video documentation of it. So I can look back on it and see what my thought process was, see what kind of things I got up to, what the game was like in the moment whenever I was doing XYZ. I do have screenshots and whatnot to show for on the other two accounts, thanks to Runelight and back in the day, what is it called? OS Buddy, if anybody remembers that. No luck yet at Zulrah, unfortunately, but we've been chipping away at the Relica rooftop, and that makes 1,000 laps here. In fact, right this second, right now, I'm not even logged in for Zulrah, taking a bit of a breather on that account because playing two accounts at once can be exhausting, particularly if you're PVMing on one account. I am currently in the middle of a Zulrah KC, but we just hit 85 agility. Okay. Elven Overpass and Waterbirth Island Cliffside. You know what? That Waterbirth Island one is actually a pretty significant unlock. That's pretty nice, but let's continue. We're back at it on the Zulrah grind. Just hit 1,700 total KC actually, so a nice little milestone there. I wish I could say when I was due or when I'm going to be due for a drop, but I can't remember the last time I was here at Zulrah beforehand, so it's a mystery and it's all 50-50 anyways, right? That's what they say? 50-50? I gotta pat myself on the back here for coming back to Zulrah because I'm thoroughly enjoying the experience right now. Zulrah is by far one of my favorite bosses, even to this day with all the bosses they've added into the game over the years. This is because this boss is like the right level of difficulty and intensity in my opinion. Once you get familiar with the boss rotations, it's honestly not too difficult. Obviously on the infamous mage phase, the second range phase as some people dub it, you do have to watch out for the big combos. For example, right there, I got a hit an 11 and then a 2. Actually, that's very, very humble. You know, that easily could have been back-to-back 40s. But Missouri OP, I suppose, and 99 defense. Anyways, I was saying that Zulrah is just the right level of intensity because there is some prayer switching involved, there is some gear switching involved, but it's nothing too crazy, and a little bit of movement, right? You move around this U-shaped island to fight Zulrah, and before you know it, especially these days, the fight is over in about a little over a minute on average, probably, depending on your gear setup. Speaking of which, there are a lot of different gear setups that you could be using here at Zulrah these days, even melee. Something that I haven't tried just yet outside of in the first leagues where they introduced this concept where you could use halberds. Here at Zulrah, you'll find people in the most scuffed gear possible or imaginable, like mystic rope tops and rune crossbows, and then you'll have the people decked out in absolute max mage gear. Actually, while I'm in max mage with the shadow, I do wonder, is the Eye of Ayak from the Doom Mocha actually better than the shadow here? I'm not too sure, but I'm having fun using the shadow right now though, so I'll continue to use that. With how difficult or mechanically complex some of these bosses that are being released these days, for example, Scurious can be arguably more complex than Zulrah if you think about it. But it's crazy to say that Zulrah was once upon a time probably considered the most difficult boss in the game. That's obviously not the case these days anymore. What I can say though, is that Zulrah was the best moneymaker in the game at one point in time for sure. It was absolutely crazy here. For KC 1738, we actually got a double Chaos Rune drop. Good for recharging our shadow that we've been using, and of course these Zulrah scales. Ooh, we finally get a drop, a unique on the grind, and that's going to be an uncut Onyx on KC 1758. Let's take a look at the collection log here. Easy to find Zulrah because it starts with Z all the way at the bottom, just after Volcano. That is our 4th uncut Onyx on the account. Now, funny enough, when it comes to Onyxes, I actually have plenty of those 7 cut Onyxes from the Chambers of Xerix, more specifically Tecton. But nice to see the first drop back at Zulrah. Let's continue and hope to see a couple more. Amidst all the attention on Zulrah and our first drop just now, let's not forget what we set out to do in the first place, and that is to max 416 hero. Yep, we're still at the Relica course, running round and round and round. We're up to 1370 laps now, so closing on 1400. And there's many more to come because right now we're still 85 agility, on our way to 86 with about 115k EXP remaining. And as I said before, the road to max is a long journey, and sometimes it's not so interesting. And obviously when we are focusing on PVMing and bossing like Zulrah, the efficiency running the laps is going to take a bit of a hit. You know, we're not going to be as efficient. But that's okay, because if we think about it this way, if I was to sit here and watch myself do agility laps over and over again, I'd probably get off the game sooner than later. But in doing something like Zulrah, it just seems like a background activity where I'm every now and then glancing over to the other screen and clicking a few green or red boxes, depending on if I get a Mark Graystat lap or not. And it just seems like progress flies by a lot quicker. And as I said earlier, some progress is better than no progress. It's not always about doing the most efficient thing possible, because that's how you burn yourself out of the game. I mean, if you can do that, you're just a different breed, I guess. Go ahead, by all means, crank out the max efficiency. But a lot of the times when you're thinking of a grind, it can seem kind of daunting because you're thinking about what you need to do and how long it may take. But if you simply just start and not worry too much about that, before long, you would get to where you need to be anyways. Plus, with a game like old school RuneScape, it's not really the destination. It's a cliche, I know. It's not really the destination, but it's the journey along the way. At least when it comes to this game, I feel like I understand that thought process more so than anybody, or just as much as anybody else, because whenever I reach a goal, honestly, I don't spend too much time celebrating it or anything like that. I'm always asking, what's next? Like when I first maxed my account, what's next? Let me get the Inferno Cape. Did that, what's next? Oh, let's start an Ironman. And then rinse and repeat. And here I am now, trying to max 416 hero. And you can definitely guess it, when the time comes when I max that account, I'm going to be asking myself, what's next? A nice little break in the action to do another birdhouse run. We've been making good progress in this regard. We're on our way to 88. Now, talking about the birdhouse run, does anybody else fall into this? I don't want to say trap. I don't know what the right wording, like a lull, I guess, where you're doing an activity like agility, running round and round on the rooftops, and, you know, you get the notification your birdhouse run is ready to do. Well, you're like, all right, let's finish out the lap and then go do our birdhouse run, only to do like 2 to 3 more laps, and you just keep forgetting to do your birdhouse run. This is going to be KC 1800. Let's see what we're going to get here. If my shadow would hit something higher than a 6. There we go. And get some runite ore, of course, the scales, and teleport scrolls, I should say. Now, these teleport scrolls, as long as you do about 3 KC per trip, you should be able to profit on these, or at the very least sustain them. But if you can't do more than a 3 KC trip, then you're going to eventually run out of those teleport scrolls, unless you just happen to get very lucky. Anyways, along with the 1800 KC here at Zulrah, we are now just about 1 hour removed from getting 86 agility. So we finally are making some progress after hundreds upon hundreds of laps at the Relica course. I may or may not have just planked that Zulrah, but either way, what a great way to break up the grind by coming to the farm guild, doing my contract, and replenishing the compost bin here, as well as getting the snape grass. I always like to do one harvest of the snape grass per day. This is actually my second go around, but snape grass is always needed for the prayer potions, and as we know, if you do any PVMing, prayer potions are ever important. And for good measure, let's go ahead and do a limpwort root and herb run. For herbs, we're planting toad flax right now. Not that I'm in short supply of brews, but I'm thinking ahead for 416 hero. I think a lot of the potion making, I mean, we have plenty of supplies, but something I'm actually a little short on is that toad flax. I have an ungodly amount of bird's nest between the two accounts from all the birdhouse runs we've done, but when it comes to the toad flax, not so much. Well, in the middle of that farm run, I now actually have to do a birdhouse run on this account as well. Whenever I'm on the move like this on two accounts, it gets very confusing, so hopefully I don't go cross-eyed. But let's finish this lap. I mentioned this earlier, but yep, okay, let's TP out. Let's not start another lap. Let's go ahead and get our supplies for the birdhouse run. 86 agility. 13 more levels to go in this skill. Another 374k until we get 87. Oh, I just punched a warrior. I'm trying to climb up, don't mind me. Let's keep grinding. Wow, a double dragon medium helm drop. That's gotta be pretty rare. So I guess this is a little bit of a sneak peek as to how I've been playing the two accounts at the same time. I have the Zulrah, the maxed account, near the top of my screen, and then just below it I have the other client on 416 hero running the laps. In the middle of Zulrah KC, you can see where I'm kind of finding the moments to click on the other client so that I can keep running the laps. Now this KC ended up being a pretty neat one. It was pretty speedy, and as it turns out, we just tied our PB. Mega rares might be fun to use, but something like the Tumikin's Shadow is very expensive to charge, and right now we're down to just a little over 1,000 charges remaining on the Tumikin's Shadow. This bad boy costs 5 Chaos Runes and 1 Soul Rune for every cast, so imagine that. So with all the Chaos Runes we just had, which was about 20,000, 22,000, we get another 4,500 charges into our Shadow, which can hold up to 2,000, or 20,000, I should say. We're still pretty good on the Soul Runes right now, but keep in mind, I got this stack of Soul Runes from my time going for 99 rune crafting, and my over 1,000 Chambers runs. I don't know how many Soul Runes came from Chambers specifically, but this stack used to be like 500k, 600k, and it's been depleting over time. And let's check back in with 416 hero over at the Relica rooftops. We're closer and closer to 87 agility now, just under 56,000 EXP to go. And then 3 more levels and we'll hit the Ardoin, RD, however you pronounce it, rooftop courses. Now actually, finishing this lap, let's go ahead and do a birdhouse run. Let's teleport to the farming guild. But also, before we even get to 90 agility, once we hit 87, I do plan on taking a step back from agility just for a little bit, not because I'm necessarily tired of doing agility. I'm still, enjoying it quite a bit actually, especially since I'm occupying most of my time doing other content on the other account. However, actually, it's the perfect time that we're doing a birdhouse run right now, but I've been looking into it. Once we hit 89 Hunter, we're going to move on to Redwood Birdhouses. And along with 89 Hunter, we're going to need to get from 76 all the way to 90 crafting. So we're going to shift our focus a little bit on crafting EXP. Now, earlier I mentioned that most of our crafting EXP is probably going to come from gold bars, in which we're going to have to do smithing for gold bars. Luckily, we already have the gold ore banked. But I also do have a whole bunch of battle staves and orbs, charged orbs more specifically, available in the bank as well. So I think I'm going to get through some of that. And the nice thing is, not only is that going to be crafting EXP, it's also going to be nice GP once we process it all. But yeah, that's the game plan right now, and it is a nice change of pace to just take a step back away from running laps over and over again. And yeah, we're going to be training another skill, at least for a little bit. I still want to get agility out the way sooner than later. That way we have an easier time towards the end of our maxing journey. Now that our Tumikin's Shadow has some more charges in it, we're back at Zulrah. And honestly, us doing Zulrah has worked out very well because we were just talking about crafting EXP and making some battle staves. Well, Zulrah actually has battle staves on the drop table, dropping 12 noted battle staves at a time. We have a healthy reserve of orbs. In fact, I'm pretty sure we have more orbs of various elements, ranging from air to water to whatever. So the more stabs we can get right now, the better, and the more EXP we'll be able to get that way. Of course, like I said, most of the EXP is going to come from gold, but this is going to net us some nice GP, which is always nice to have for Scar Essence and anything else that might come up. Slight correction as to what I just said. I mentioned that Zulrah drops 12 battle staves at a time. It's actually 10. What does drop in packs of 12, though, is, I guess 12 is a dozen, right? What does drop in a dozen is the dragon bones, which will also be useful for us down the line when we train prayer, but my immediate thought right now is for crafting. There's something about doing rooftop agility which is comparable to, I guess, like driving in real life, in which you just have a lot of time to think. And along with thinking, I've also been doing a lot of rummaging through my bank tab here on the maxed account, and we have 99 crafting banked in more ways than one. The thing I've been mentioning the most is the gold bars and gold ore, and more recently we were talking about the orbs, which for some reason are actually in a different tab over here, and battle staves. So we have just under 9,000 battle staves, and we have over 10,000, I believe, of these orbs in various elements. But we also have 35,000 molten glass, mostly from Theater of Blood, I imagine, and maybe some leftover from this account's 99 grind. And we also have nearly 82,000 buckets of sand, courtesy of Bert, or is it Bart? I don't remember, but the Hand in the Sand quest in combination with the Artie Elite Diary. We have this racked up, and we actually have about 1,300 giant seaweed left over from my time on this account to 99 as well. And if we just scroll around, we got gems for days from Chambers of Xerix and various other things that we could think about. So yeah, just looking into our bank, there's a lot of options, different avenues we can go to get crafting EXP. On top of that, we've been doing Zulrah for battle staves, but something that would be even better for crafting EXP would be Vorkath, for example, where it just gives out blue dragon hide and actually all other dragon hides left and right. So that would also be good crafting EXP as well as GP, and actually a chance at draconic visages, which would be very nice. I will say though, we're probably going to stick to the game plan and knock out all the battle staves first, especially the air ones. I believe that's the best EXP and definitely the best GP. So we're going to do that, and then we'll see where we land in terms of crafting levels, and then maybe dip into the gems as well. The gold bars are the game plan for the long run, but it's probably also one of my slower options. So if I can pick up faster GP, I'm going to go ahead and do that first. Or faster EXP, I should say. You know, even though I've done this course 1,902 times, plus whatever I've done on other accounts, I never remember how much EXP you gain per lap. But there we go, that just confirmed what I was questioning. 87 agility with the completion of that lap. So, well, first of all, we unlocked the ability to use the Brimhaven Dungeon Vine. I'm sure that's useful, especially if we're doing Konar Slayer, we might end up there. I guess with the exception of Konar Slayer, there's no reason we would be there, to be honest. Nevertheless, after the completion of 87 agility now, let's turn our sights to crafting. And I've been thinking, this road to 90 crafting is a bit of a race. It is a bit of a time crunch, as we gotta get to 90 crafting before we get to 89. Because every 45 to 50 minutes, we're gonna be doing a birdhouse run. With that being said, the race kicks off in the next one. This is 416 Hero, a 50 defense gym account created with just 2 goals in mind: defeating Zuck for the Inferno Cape and completing the Colosseum for Dazana's Quiver. With that out the way now, we have set our sights on a new goal: achieving the max level of 99 in every single skill and ultimately acquiring the max cape. Right now we are in a race against the clock. Let me explain. Every 50 minutes or so we do a birdhouse run, and we are fast approaching level 89 Hunter. At level 89 Hunter, we unlock redwood birdhouses, the highest tier. However, they come with a second requirement: 90 crafting. We're not going to be slowing down on those birdhouse runs, so let's get to crafting. We're only level 76 right now. This skill, especially when compared to agility, is extremely fast. Here we are at 77 crafting already. Members can now craft red dragonhide armor and Huey Coddle chaps. We could get some red dragonhide if we choose to do Vorkat. I might do a couple down the line, I'm not too sure. Right now we're still sticking with Zulrah though. Oh, hello there. This is Wait For It. And yes, it's actually the same person, still me, just on a different account. A quick explainer for new viewers to the series: this account was created well beyond the existence of 416 Hero, before the start of the entire YouTube series. I was already maxed and I already had most of the PVM items, especially the mega rares in the game. Grandmaster, well, I accomplished that relatively recently actually. Nevertheless, 416 Heroes Max and Grind will have access to this account's bank, and we have ample supplies and resources sitting in there. Furthermore, throughout this Max and Grind, I'm going to be enjoying myself on this account and doing various PVM activities. But let's continue on with the air orbs. We're making air battle staves right now. We still have plenty of orbs to go through, and certainly plenty of battle staves. We're going to need about another 150,000 EXP to get to 78 crafting. In the meanwhile, we are 254k EXP away from 88 Hunter. I'm actually trying to record this clip right now while trying not to plank in the middle of a Zulrah KC, but the crafting EXP is absolutely flying in, and that is 78 crafting now. Members can now craft crystal bows, crystal halberds, Huey Coddle bodies, and crystal shields. We can't even use a crystal shield right now, being 50 defense. And let's check in back on Wait For It. At Zulrah, we just reached the 1900 KC milestone. Now, if you're wondering why I'm doing Zulrah, there's actually 2 good reasons. For one thing, you can see that the collection log here is not completed. The only things missing are purely cosmetic, but at this stage of the account, it would be nice to get. The second reason is that Zulrah has a very extensive drop table with drops and resources that offer a lot of EXP in various skills. And since we're maxing on 416 Hero, obviously that is very beneficial. A little bit into level 78 crafting, we are now all out of air orbs. Well, let's check the magic box that is group storage, and in here is about 2,400 fire orbs. We're completely out of air orbs now, but we do have this stack of fire orbs. So we're going to go ahead and start doing that. It's the next best thing in terms of battle staves anyways. Now, where did these fire orbs come from? Well, as an endgame Ironman, I've been through countless grinds. And certain grinds are absolutely just seared into your brain for one reason or another. One of those grinds is Cerberus. At Cerberus, it took me an insane amount of KC just to get my hands on my first Eternal Crystal for the Eternal Boots. Now, once upon a time, the Eternal Boots weren't even that relevant. But with the existence of Avernic Treads these days, and even beforehand when they redistributed the magic damage percentage from the occult necklace to several other pieces of magic gear, well, it became all that more relevant, especially when you got your hands on a Tumican Shadow. And here comes another crafting level. This time around, we hit level 80. Nice little milestone there. Do we unlock anything at this level? Members can now craft Dragonstone amulets, so I guess like a glory. Enhanced crystal keys, eternal teleport crystals. Oh, and it looks like you need 80 crafting for all of the DT2 rings. That's something I actually didn't know. Well, with all these crafting gains, I've still been chipping away at the Zulrah KC. Don't get me wrong, the Shadow and the T-Bow nets us a lot of Zulrah KCs, but crafting is so fast it doesn't even seem comparable right now. We're currently on KC 1954, and I think when we get to 2000, I'm going to take a bit of a step back from Zulrah and find something else to do. While we're locked into specific grinds on 416 Hero, we do have the freedom over on here to do whatever we want. So we've gone through all the air orbs, and we're actually running low on these fire orbs now. A couple more inventories and we're going to be completely out. That leaves us with the water and the earth orbs, which for a second here, I kind of had my doubts on whether or not I wanted to go ahead and use those, but then I thought about it more, and to be honest, these battle staves and these orbs have been sitting in my bank for the longest time, probably multiple years even, and I haven't done anything with them, so I might as well make use of them. On top of that, I don't plan on charging orbs anytime soon. I didn't beforehand, and I'm not going to start now. So, yeah, we're just going to go ahead, and once we run out of these fire orbs, we're going to go ahead and do earth orbs. Or actually, you know, you'd think I'd know this, but which one is higher and which one is lower? Let's take a look at weaponry in the crafting menu here, and it's water then earth. Okay, that's what I thought, but I did have to double check to confirm that. And once again, let's open up the magic box that is the group storage. And here we have 5,300 earth orbs and another 90 battle staves that we picked up from Zulrah so far. Well, that new PB just came out of absolutely nowhere. To be fair, it was probably just like 1 second, but surprising nonetheless. And of course, time for a birdhouse run. We need another 208 birdhouses to go until 8,800, then one more level after that to get the targeted 89. I just want to say, so we've been parked out here at the Myths Guild doing our crafting grind. And not too long ago, we were here for our 99 cooking grind as well, as the range is right next to the bank chest. You don't even have to move. This place is very nostalgic for me. I suppose that's the right word anyways, because I have done countless 99 grinds at this exact spot on my 2 other accounts. So think of everything that you could possibly train while bank standing, and that includes herb lore, crafting, cooking in this particular instance, and even a little bit of fletching. Although most of the time I did some multi-skilling with fletching, I was a bit more efficient on that. Well, safe to say that there are a few more 99s on the way here at this very location. Just came back from my birdhouse run, and we are fast approaching level 81 crafting. Coincidentally, actually, 81 more of these earth battle staves to make until we hit that level. But you can see here in the bank, we have 3,800 earth orbs remaining and another 2,800 or so battle staves left. Where did I get all these earth orbs from? If anybody knows, do let me know, because honestly, I have no idea. Going through this inventory here, we should be able to get to 81 crafting. Now this race for 89 hunter versus 90 crafting, you know, I wasn't so sure to begin with, but I feel like I'm going to hit 90 crafting sooner than 89 hunter. I could be wrong though. I mean, EXP is going to slow down once we run out of these battle staves. We're probably going to have to cut some gems, which is still pretty quick, but I don't think it's as quick as battle staves. I've probably said the word battle staves tens of times in this video already, but each time I say it, it just doesn't sound right. I keep wanting to say battle staves instead, but I think the proper grammar here, because it's plural, is going to be battle staves. It just doesn't sound right though. When I first came back to Zulrah, I was at roughly 1500 KC, maybe closer to 1600. Nevertheless, we are well over 300 KC now, and closing in on 2000 total KC. I believe seeing a drop here is every 1 in 128, so it's kind of surprising we haven't seen more drops. We've seen exactly 1 drop so far, and that was an uncut onyx. Even then, I'm sure that was over 128 KC ago, so maybe we're a little unlucky, who knows. But, you know, being an Ironman, one of the staples is complaining about drops, and then once you start complaining, you'll inevitably get the drop. That's how it works, right? It did not work. We did hit the rare drop table though, 67 nature runes, and I'll be taking those 12 dragon bones gladly. Okay, a magic fang a little while later. I guess complaining does work. That was KC 1981. So 19 more to go until the big 2000. Very nice to see a drop. This bad boy is worth 3.6 mil. You know, like, that's just cool to see. Obviously, I have no use for it. And there we have it, KC 2000. I saw that loot beam and I thought I got another special drop, but I guess a Dragon Halberd's actually pretty special. And a double Zulrah scales drop, so that's pretty nice. Well, that's going to wrap up the Zulrah grind for now. Unfortunately, we didn't get our hands on a mutagen or even the Jar of Swamp, but those things are very, very rare, and even 2000 KC in, we actually haven't hit the drop rate for those yet. So simply, we didn't get lucky, but we didn't get unlucky. Oh, and just as we got the 2000 KC, we got a exam center random on 416 Hero. I can't remember the last time I did one of these, so hopefully we still know how to do these. I'm going to assume this is jewelry, right? One more question. What comes next? A candle lantern thing. Fish out of water. Okay, this one is right on the nose. Am I blind? I can't see a third fish. Maybe the harpoon? I think it's the harpoon. All that, and we're about to get an EXP lamp. We're probably going to put it into Slayer. That is 1,328 Slayer EXP. Honestly, not too bad. You may be wondering why I put free EXP into Slayer rather than Herblore, which is the most common thing that Ironman would do, or even another slow skill such as Agility or Rune Crafting. Well, first things first, 416 Hero has access to Wait For Its Bank, which has a seemingly endless supply of Herblore EXP. Now, when it comes to Agility, honestly, that's a fair point. Maybe I should consider that. But I've been putting Slayer EXP, or I've been putting EXP into Slayer this entire time. And I guess the reasoning is that in the past on one of the other accounts, I've been incredibly burnt out training Slayer. Slayer was actually the last 99 to get on my normal regular account back in the day, and I remember burning out so hard from doing the Slayer grind. As for something like rune crafting, honestly, that's not really a priority right now. And when it comes to rune crafting, once I get my hands on the Guardians of the Rift outfit and then gain access to the Zaya rune crafting area, I'm going to have a good time there, so I don't really mind that at all. Well, on Wait For It, before we move on to our next grind, let's go ahead and do our farming contract. Working on some snape grass right now, in which we had this pre-planted already, so that's always a good feeling. The nice thing about farming contracts is that they're always nice to do. Even at this stage of the account, you never know what you're going to get out of the seed packs. And once I get done with this, I'm going to go ahead and do an herb run and a limpwort root run as well. We're not exactly short on potions or anything like that, but we are prepping for 416 Hero to get more Herblore EXP. And when it comes to secondaries like the limpwort roots, we have to farm those, and I don't have too many of those right now, so let's get to work on that. Getting ready for another crafting level right now, and I just noticed someone has a Forester's Campfire right here. Earlier, I was talking about potential bank standing skilling activities, and I suppose this is one of those. Not relevant to us right now unless we want to get post 99 fire making EXP, but for the incredibly lazy or somebody just looking for something incredibly chill to do, that is another option. Anyways, here is 82 crafting. Members can now craft black dragonhide chaps, onyx necklaces, blades of Saildor, and bows of... You know what? I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. But you know what? It seems like crafting is getting a lot of unlocks right now for us. It seems like every level there is actually something relevant to unlock. So that's pretty nice to see. I do have a blade of Saildor on this account, and I just went ahead and paid the extra crystal charges, or the shards, to make the corrupted blade of Saildor. These days, that's not too big of a deal, honestly. Back then, by the time you got an enhanced seed, you probably didn't have enough shards. Unless you just, you know, got really, really dry on going for the enhanced seed, which is one of those infamous, notorious Ironman grinds, right? there are some horror stories out there of how many KCs, how many corrupted gauntlet runs people have had to do to get their first seed. Well, a bit of a ramble there, but that's just what happens when you're standing at the bank, crafting away over and over again. But let's get into the next grind on Wait For It. Alright, I've done some thinking, and I finally figured out what I'm going to do next. I say this as if once I pick a grind, I have to stick to it as if I was some snowflake Ironman. However, that's obviously not the case. Nevertheless though, it is nice to pick a grind and stick to it, that way we know we're working towards something. So the next grind in question is going to be Vardorvis. Let's take a look at the collection log real quick. First and foremost, we have a KC total of 1,509. Obviously here at Vardorvis, the thing you want the most is the Ultor Prestige for the ring. Now I managed to snag this bad boy at KC 1,508. That's right, I was actually pretty unlucky in that regard. We ended up doing one more KC pretty recently actually to close out the Grandmaster grind. And as far as the overarching Desert Treasure 2 bosses go, we did get lucky with the Vardorvis in the sense that we got a complete set before we even got any dupes. This mask came after, I forget the order, I think I might have even got it in a really lucky order as well. I think it was the robe top into the robe bottoms into the Vardorvis mask, which by the way, has anyone ever realized the Vardorvis mask is virtually useless? Because more times than not, you would be using Vardorvis for the purpose of a Slayer task, so you would be wearing your Slayer mask. Anyways, to the left of all the Vardorvis is the Executioner's Axe head, which is the Soul Reaper axe piece, which we unfortunately do not have. Once upon a time, I considered going for the SRA. That was before getting the scythe. Unfortunately, though, we didn't get the axe piece, and I think we only have one of the axe pieces out of the 4. And then obviously we are missing the Butch pet as well. It's a pretty cool pet. I would like to get that. Now, I think the game plan for us is to get to 2,000 KC, just as we did with Zulrah. It's a bit arbitrary, I know, but I'm starting to look at my high scores page, and I like to round out the boss KCs. So let's go ahead and do that. We've geared up and made our way to Vardorvis, and the first thing I see when we get here is a bunch of tile markers. We're definitely going to clear this up. This is a leftover from the previously mentioned combat achievement, Axe Enthusiast. Since I haven't been to Vardorvis in so long, this first KC might be interesting, so I'm going to take you guys along with me. Let's pot up and get started here. I don't think I've ever experienced the power of Oath Plate here at Vardorvis either. Certainly when I was on the grind, I only had Torva. Well, I say only, but you know, Torva in itself is pretty powerful. But in terms of slash weapons, it's nothing compared to Oath Plate. Oath Plate is insanely strong in that regard. Honestly, it's mind-boggling. Okay, so far so good, honestly. Now, if we do end up with a Soul Reaper axe piece, we really don't have a purpose for the Soul Reaper axe anymore because, honestly, with a scythe, the scythe outclasses the Soul Reaper at every location, which, well, with the exception of this very boss that we're working on right now, Vardorvis. This is the only place in which we would have use for the SRA. Okay, things are looking a little sketchy here, but we got the job done. That was a little scary. We were on the verge of planking. But there we go, our first KC, a 110 time. Not that we're trying to go fast specifically or anything, but there we have it. Now we need another 390 KC. Or, I can't do math, 490. You know, we didn't even begin discussing the drop table on here besides the uniques, but a dragon dart tips, 150 of them no less, is pretty nice. Just got done with that first trip to Vardorvis, but it's time for a birdhouse run on 416 Hero. Right now we're just under 50% of the way there to 88 Hunter. And I swear I have been doing this on cooldown as long as I've been in front of my computer. It looks like crafting is going to catch up to the levels though, and then not only that, surpass it. Although EXP is slowing down now as I'm pretty much out of battle staves completely. We're going to transition the crafting training over to cutting gems right now, I think. We are back in our cozy spot at the Myths Guild. Went ahead and opened the group storage, the magical box, and withdrew 10,000 diamonds, uncut diamonds, courtesy of the maxed account. So let's start chipping away at these, and honestly, I have no idea how much EXP this is. I know it's going to be quite a bit, and the timing of this could not have worked out better, actually. Vardorvis, safe to say, is a more intensive activity than Zulrah. As such, more of my attention is going to be on there, and I do want a little bit more downtime on this account. Cutting an inventory full of gems is the perfect way to do that. To be honest, another reason I picked Vardorvis to do was I just wanted to swing my sight. Orb. Bad news, I just planked. Good news, I got distracted because you can see it in the chat there. I hit 1925 total and 83 crafting. And there it is. What do we unlock now? Amethyst bolt tips, black dragonhide shields, and confliction gauntlets. You know what? We don't have a second mocha cloth. We don't have a dupe is the point. So we do have to go back to Doom and Mocha at some point to get confliction gauntlets for this account. Orb. We decked ourselves out in full radiant oath plate for this grind, and it's not often we actually use the oath plate helmet these days. A lot of setups, a lot of the times, involves using the Torva helm for that extra max hit. But I think for Vardorvis, this is one of the exceptions, one of the few places with this exception. I could be wrong though, I just very quickly plugged things into the DPS calculator. We've been using the Beleti ring instead of the Ultor ring as well. Right now, I'm just chilling in the POH because we're up to 1561 KC now. Our starting point was 1509, so quick math right there, we did 52, I believe. Vardorvis is actually the quickest boss out of the 4 DT2 bosses to farm. The KCs will really shoot up quickly. However, I will say, since it's my first time back in a long time, I'm kind of beat. Vardorvis requires a lot of attention. Don't worry, I'm not giving up, but I'm just saying, I think despite the fact that Vardorvis is a fast KC boss, it might end up being slower than you think, just because I'm probably going to take more breaks in between. And you know what? When it comes to cutting these diamonds, absolutely little to no effort. So we're well on our way to 84 crafting already. I touched on this earlier, but it's only becoming more and more apparent with every crafting EXP drop. We're most definitely going to hit 90 crafting before 89 hunter, which is not a problem because that just means we can return back to the Relica rooftops to continue our agility training. Another day, another login. Just did my birdhouse run, and now we're back at our cozy spot. And what a great way to start off, because this first diamond is going to get us 84 crafting. Members can now craft black dragonhide armor and onyx bracelets. I'm not sure how much black dragonhide I have, but if I do have any, I might consider making some of those. And now with 416 hero nice and set up in the cozy spot at the Myths Guild for crafting EXP, let's return to Vardorvis on the maxed account here. Let's see if we can get any interesting drops today. First KC, we were on the brink of death all the way down to 9 HP, but we get 45 Addy ore to start the day. I don't have too much use for Addy ore these days. Actually, probably none at all. The last time I used any was for sailing. Wait, no, I do have a use for them, and that's to make ruby bolts, but I so rarely use them, it's not often I have to make them. I don't go through many of them, and I also do have the option of the ruby dragon bolts. In fact, right now, I probably have more ruby dragon bolts than I have regular ruby bolts. I think the more interesting race is now between the 2000 Vardorvis KC or 90 crafting, but I'm not helping my case in terms of Vardorvis by planking. Honestly, this is just a greed thing. You'll see when I pick up all my gear here, I had an inventory full of food. I just absolutely refused to eat in the middle of a KC. Ooh, a chromium ingot. Obviously, we don't need that anymore on this account, but I imagine I do need some more for the future DT2 rings we're about to get for 416 hero. So that's nice to see. And at Desert Treasure 2, I believe this and Muspa were one of the first few bosses to have a little jingle sound effect whenever you got a unique drop, so that's pretty cool. But speaking of Desert Treasure 2, I haven't even done the quest on this account. A little while ago, I was on a questing binge, but after 10-15 quests, actually, I don't even know if you can call that a questing binge, but after 10-15 quests, I kind of got bored of questing again, and here I am on the maxing grind. I think somewhere along the way, though, we will go back to questing because questing always provides really good EXP. And with things like Tombs of a Masket locked behind Beneath Cursed Sands, and obviously the Desert Treasure 2 rings are, well, Desert Treasure 2 rings. We're going to have to do those inevitably anyways. So, yeah, it's just a matter of when. But let's get back to the Mythical. We're kind of joking around in the clan chat right now, and it just occurred to me, I just cracked this joke about back in my day, you know. And it just occurred to me, yeah, back in the day, you had to earn your chromium ingots. There were no way of making them, but these days you can actually make them with some combination of ores and whatnot. I'm not even sure, actually. I never looked it up. By the time I finished Desert Treasure 2 rings on this account, it was well before that update that allowed you to make them. Oh wow, a gold ring. I just got a ring roll for the Ultor Vestige. Now obviously we already have the Ultor, so that is our first one for a whole new Ultor. That's pretty exciting. 1584 KC. Okay, it just occurred to me now when I make it to Desert Treasure 2 on 416 Hero, I might be more inclined to do the grind on this account because I know I'm already 1 out of 3 on the ring rolls. Yeah, in general, I guess the Desert Treasure 2 grind is going to be a tricky one. I'm going to be more incentivized to grind on the main than the 416 Hero account because, well, besides the fact that this account has much better gear, I'm also already 1 out of 4 in terms of the Soul Reaper axe, and now I'm 1 out of 3 for the Ultor ring, and I'm not sure what kind of situation we're at in terms of the other rings, but it could be a similar situation. But you know what? That's a future me problem. I'm just enjoying the Vardorvis grind right now, just to do it up to 2k KC for absolutely arbitrary reasons. So let's just keep at it for now. 200 raw sharks. That is a pretty satisfying drop. Always nice to see a loot beam. Wow, this has been a very long trip so far. I've just been zoning out, got a ton of supply drops, and we made it to 1600 KC. 400 more to go. 85 crafting. Can now craft amethyst arrow tips and combine the accursed scepter. Okay, amethyst arrow tips is actually huge. That means I can start mining amethyst on the maxed account and transfer them over for EXP for fletching on this account. That's something to think about, I suppose. Orb. Right now, we're a few inventories shy of hitting 86 crafting, and we're about to be out of diamonds. So with that being said, we're going to withdraw some rubies, uncut rubies. We have a whopping 32,000 of those available on this account. And I guess we're just going to transfer over about 10,000 for now. We'll see how far that takes us. And into the magical box that is group storage. Alright, this is the last of the uncut diamonds. Just 8 more. And there we have it. Let's go into the group storage and take out those rubies. And that is 86 crafting. Members can now craft amulets of Rancor. Ooh, another unique blood quartz. And I actually don't have inventory space for that. Let's take a look at the collection log real quick at Vardorvis. That is our 4th blood quartz. And we've made it all the way to 87 crafting. We unlock Dorgeshan light orbs, I should say. And I believe that's actually going to be the best available EXP with our molten glass. Unless we want to do orbs, but I think I spoke on this before. I'm probably not going to charge any orbs. And then amethyst javelin tips as well. That's a little irrelevant for us though. But 2 more, nope, scratch that. 3 more levels for us to go till we hit 90. And that's going to be the requirement for the redwood birdhouses. We're in the groove at Vardorvis now, so much so that I hit 1700 total KC on the previous trip, and I'm just now realizing it. But we're a long ways away from 2000 KC. Let's check back in with 416 Hero and the progress over here. We're now level 87 in both crafting and hunter. Now we started at 77 crafting, however, and I think 86 hunter. We're solely relying on birdhouses for the hunter levels and spending all our time crafting. And while I thought crafting was going to take longer initially because I was thinking of using gold bars, we've been making battle staves and cutting gems and the EXP is actually really good. With that being said though, I think we're going to get 90 crafting well before 88 hunter. But we're going to find that out in the next video because we've made a lot of progress already, and to be honest, I need a quick breather from Vardorvis. Previously in the GIM series. This is 416 Hero. We have set our sights on a new goal, acquiring the max cape. Right now we are in a race against the clock. Let me explain. Every 50 minutes or so, we do a birdhouse run, and we are fast approaching level 89 hunter. At level 89 hunter, we unlock redwood birdhouses, the highest tier. However, they come with a second requirement, 90 crafting. We're not going to be slowing down on those birdhouse runs, so let's get to crafting. Oh, hello there. This is Wait For It, and yes, it's actually the same person, still me, just on a different account. A quick explainer for new viewers to the series, this account was created well beyond the existence of 416 Hero, before the start of the entire YouTube series. I was already maxed and I already had most of the PVM items, especially the mega rares in the game. Grandmaster, well, I accomplished that relatively recently actually. Nevertheless, 416 Heroes Max and Grind will have access to this account's bank, and we have ample supplies and resources sitting in there. Furthermore, throughout this max and grind, I'm going to be enjoying myself on this account and doing various PVM activities. 88, I was going to say agility, it's crafting. No unlocks this time around. Feels like the previous 8 levels or so, every single level we got some kind of unlock, but not at 88 apparently. When we first started this race between crafting and hunter levels, we were just 77 crafting and 86 hunter, I believe. But now crafting has surpassed it, and we're sitting at 88 crafting, closer to 89 actually, and we're at 87 hunter. Safe to say we're going to hit 90 crafting before 89 hunter. Before we went on this crafting grind, we were on the rooftops of Relica, training our agility, and we recently acquired the colossal worm Graceful outfit as well. I know we have a long road ahead of us in terms of maxing, as we're not even 2000 total level yet. However, I do plan on getting 99 agility out the way sooner than later. And so with the long grind, as I touched on earlier, I'll be PVMing on the already maxed Grandmaster account. One of the things we've been doing recently is Vardorvis, so I've been swinging my scythe constantly. And we're at the point now where we have to charge our scythe. We're just down to 131 charges remaining. This is probably the lowest amount of charges I've seen in my scythe, short of it being completely uncharged. Let's get back to Vardorvis. Let's take a look at the collection log real quick though, actually. We're up to 1712 total, and there's nothing in particular we're looking for. Getting the Soul Reaper Axe Executioner's Axe Head and getting the pet would be fantastic. But my main goal right now is simply to get to 2000 Vardorvis KC. This is a very arbitrary reason. I just want to round it out nicely on the high scores. And then after that, we'll probably look to do something else. And the first KC of the session, what are we going to get here? Start us off strong, please. You know, that's pretty good. A supply drop, that'll extend the trip. As I said, the main reason why we're here is simply just to get our total KC up to a nice clean 2000 number. However, if we get our hands on a second Ultor ring somehow, that would be fantastic for the other account. Currently, we are just on ring roll number 1, which we acquired in the last video. Yes, despite us being in the 1700s numbers for KC, I didn't get my first Ultor completion until 1508 KC. So in terms of that, I was pretty unlucky. And I suppose not even having the axe head here is also unlucky. But that's from the past, and we can only move forward and continue getting KC. Now for anybody that may not know, what does one ring roll signify? Well, one ring roll means you get one gold ring, which is typically not on the drop table here at Vardorvis. That one ring, that one gold ring, signifies that you're 1 out of 3 on the ring rolls. You need a total of 3 ring rolls to get the Ultor Vestige. Now, way back in the past, upon Desert Treasure 2 release, this ring roll was hidden. There was no way of knowing whether you were 1 out of 3, or 2 out of 3, or even 0 out of 3. At some point down the line, they made an update that introduced the gold rings. That way we have a visual indicator to see our progress. Now I mentioned that I was actually pretty unlucky here in terms of getting the Ultor Vestige on my first grind around here. And that's because the Ultor is a 1 in 1008 drop rate, if I recall correctly off the top of my head. So us taking all the way up to 1508 KC is definitely a little unlucky. Last KC of the first strip here, 150 Dragon Dart tips. That is a fantastic drop. Probably one of the better drops you can get here at Vardorvis. As with all Desert Treasure 2 bosses, the drop tables have something that's pretty interesting, but equally, they also have some drops that are pretty troll. I'm not sure what it is at Vardorvis. It's got to be like bronze javelin heads or something like that. Or in the middle of a Vardorvis trip right now, but we just hit 89 crafting. Members can now cut Zenites. That is absolutely massive. Craft Zenite rings. That's for the Ring of Suffering. And craft Amethyst Dart tips. Now that's also relevant for us. Although for most other people, solo Ironman, that's seemingly insignificant at this stage of progression. But that's very good for us because we can just mine a bunch of amethyst on the maxed account. And that could be some fletching EXP that way. Which we do need a lot of because currently we're just 74 fletching right now. Anyways, in terms of our short-term goals, we're now just one level away from the targeted 90. And we're still level 87 Hunter right now, despite doing birdhouse runs on cooldown. Honestly, the crafting EXP has come a lot quicker than I initially anticipated when I first started this race. And that's because I didn't really anticipate doing battle staves and cutting gems. In my mind, I was just thinking about gold bars and turning them into either bracelets or tiaras, and in which that would be significantly slower EXP. But gaining levels is by no means a bad thing. It just puts us one step closer to being maxed. Checking in at a pretty nice little milestone here, 1750 KC. So we're 250 away until 2000. Now I did start this grind at Vardorvis at 1509, and while KCs here at Vardorvis are relatively quick, especially in comparison to the other two Desert Treasure 2 bosses, this is very mentally taxing in my opinion. I don't know, it just requires a lot more focus, and obviously I'm also trying to do some crafting on the side semi-efficiently, so I guess it all adds up. With that being said, I think for today my target goal is going to get to 1,800, and then we'll probably look to do something else. I'm actually running pretty low on these bluefin tunas I've been using anyways. The thing about Ironman progression is the gameplay loop is really nice. So here I am at Vardorvis, and I'm burning up all my food, right? Progressing in the KCs, which is what I want. And as I said, I think I need a break. Well, catching bluefin tunas would be a nice break, which would also help with my progression. Well, yeah, I think the game plan is we're going to hit 1800 and then we'll look to do something else. I probably should catch bluefin tunas, but at the same time, I have ample food in my bank, so maybe we'll do that, maybe we won't. We'll just figure it out when we get to 1800. While we're on the topic of Ironman grinds, while there's never really a true definitive end in sight, it's safe to say that where this account lies, we have already been over the hump of most of the PVM gear progression. Now, looking back and even revisiting some of these grinds like Vardorvis right now, I have to think to myself, how on earth did I manage to go through those grinds, especially in lesser gear? Although the bulk of my Vardorvis grind was with a Scythe of Vitter, thankfully, I did do a fair few hundred KCs here, I believe with a Blade of Saildor, maybe even a Tentacle Whip, and I certainly didn't have O-Plate. And this is just one such example. For example, the Zulrah grind was done with a Bofa, although maybe the Bofa's not the best example, but even going for the Bofa itself at the Corrupted Gauntlet, I did 40 to 50 KCs a day, and looking back at it, that is absolutely insane. But I guess Ironman progression, especially in the early to mid game, is just absolutely addicting. Well, one good way to break up the Vardorvis grind up to 2000 KC is to do these birdhouse runs every 45 to 50 minutes. We're actually running low on these magic logs, and we're going to have to transfer some more over. This account can even get magic logs itself. at 71 woodcutting. And certainly all the magic logs we got from Wintertot through 99 firemaking are long gone by now. Well, with the birdhouse run done with, let's head back to our cozy spot at the Mist Guild. But in speaking about the magic logs, and once we hit our goals, we're going to need redwood logs. I'm going to be doing the same thing and transferring over redwood logs. But wood cutting is something I obviously have to do down the line, but I'm kind of purposely saving that for later because wood cutting is a very cozy grind. And I'm trying to get the things that I don't necessarily want to do out the way early, such as agility. This 90 crafting and 89 hunter is kind of just a pit stop because, well, we need the 90 crafting before we hit 89 hunter. But agility, we're going to try to get from 87 to 99 sooner than later. When I made up my mind that I'm going to be taking a break at 1800 KC rather than grinding all the way to 2000 all in one go, honestly, I think I've kicked up the KC an hour a little bit. The motivation is a little higher now to get to that finish line, or checkpoint rather, because 2000 is still going to be our finish line here. So it's definitely beneficial to set your sights on a closer, more obtainable goal, and this is applicable in just about anything you do, right? And especially in our maxing grind. Besides, the objective of us playing this account is to give us that freedom to do whatever we want in the moment and change things up from content to content while we're locked down on skilling on the other account. And speaking of the other account, it's time for a birdhouse run again. In terms of crafting, we are now just 209k EXP removed from hitting our goal of 90 crafting. Throughout this crafting grind, we started out with battle staves and then transitioned over to gems once we ran out of those, and we've been doing the best available EXP possible. So we started out with air orbs and then went all the way down and through to our earth orbs. I don't think we ever actually touched the water orbs, to be fair, because we just ran out of battle staves. But same idea with the gems. We started out with diamonds and now we downgraded to rubies. While I still do have some rubies left, I'm going to go ahead and go into the group storage here, and I've actually been obtaining more uncut diamonds on the maxed account through various grinds. I think Vardorvis specifically actually drops a couple of these too, so that's pretty cool. So we're going to speed up this remaining 89 to 90 crafting grind, and we'll be there real shortly. 12 KC to go until we take our break at 1800 KC, but I've been thinking, I think this is the most use I've had out of my Radiant Oathplate helmet since I've acquired it. In most situations where you would want to wear Oathplate, you'd probably wear it in combination with the Torva helmet just because you want that max hit. But I guess Vardorvis is one of the few exceptions. Completely out of supplies, and we're just 1 KC shy of our target. It always seems to end up like that, but let's bank and then head back and finish the job. In situations like this, more times than not, I would be like, let's just do the whole trip since we geared up anyways. But I am really ready to take a break from Vardorvis, so we're just going to go ahead and do the 1 KC. Maybe we'll get lucky, and actually it's not even lucky anymore. We're due for the Executioner's Axe Head. I would very much appreciate it if we got it. Let's see what happens. And with that swing, that is 1800 KC, and we get 57 silver ore. Looking into our bank here, before we started our Zulrah and Vardorvis grinds recently, I'm pretty sure I had like 1600 bluefin tunas. Now, we're below 100. Bluefins are one of the best healing foods, but they're particularly useful in situations like Zulrah and Vardorvis, where you know you're going to be using prayer and you're going to be taking damage no matter what. Because bluefin tunas heal for 22 health, equivalent to anglerfish and manta rays, but they also give you 5 prayer back. Honestly, everything from trawling, all the fish are really strong. So, as I alluded to earlier, let's go ahead and do some trawling to get some more bluefins. I actually haven't done any trawling since the initial few weeks of the sailing release, and the bluefins have lasted till now. I've made my way to Deepfin Point, where I last parked my trawling boat, and honestly, it's probably been here for many months. But anyways, while we're here at Deepfin Point, let me just say I feel like Deepfin Point can easily be coined as the central hub to the sailing skill, and not so much pandemonium, because this island I feel like has more to offer and is more integral to the skill in general. Up here we have resources like lead and nickel, which are very, very important resources for ship upgrading. And then right here we have the shipwright, as well as the port task board and the salvaging station. And very conveniently, just south of the workbench right here is the bank chest. This is probably one of the better locations as far as the bank and accessing the shipwright area to customize your boat. But anyways, let's hop onto our boat, the Wandering Cloud. I assume all my crewmates are here, and there they are. And as I said, it's been quite a while, to say the least, since I've done this. And I do believe there are plugins now. Again, I did this during the initial few weeks of release, and there definitely wasn't a trawling plugin of any kind. Not that trawling is particularly difficult, but as we know in this game, plugins just make everything easier. So let's head on over to the bluefin area and then we'll figure things out. As we set sail here, it just occurred to me I don't even remember where it is. Now I believe for each set of fish, there's different shoals, like 2 sets of shoals that are available across the oceans. I want to say that one of the bluefin spots are somewhere in this area. Alright, I do believe we are in the general vicinity, but before we get started here, let me go over, well, first things first, let me point out, I tried to get a better camera angle, but it appears things are quite scuffed right now, so this will have to do. In our cargo hold here, I've placed in fine fish offcuts. There are regular offcuts as well, but when you're using, or when you're looking for high tier fish, such as the bluefins, you're going to want to use fine fish offcuts. And of course also for the marlins, which are 24 healing food. And next to it we have fish crates. That way we can store as many fish as we can. And with 124 crates, honestly, we could be here for quite a while. We're probably not going to fill all of those up, but that's just what we had in the bank, and I took them all out since they're stackable. And then of course we have our crewmates. We have one person on the helm. We have a level 4 deck handiness in Cabin Boy Jenkins on one of the nets, and we'll be on one of the nets ourselves as well. And then we have Jolly Jim on the chum spreader. I believe the fine fish offcuts in combination with the chum spreader is going to net us more yield. We've caught up with the bluefin shoal. Looks like I was in the right area after all. We're currently using the deep sea trawling plugin for the first time here, and it has a lot of useful information. Not only does it map out the route the shoal is going to be going in, but it also tells you a time estimation as to when you need to move with the shoal, and also to adjust your nets, whether you're raising them or lowering them as far as depth goes. Well, I believe we're going to get about 600 bluefins or so an hour, and we might be able to snag the occasional marlins from the, I forget what it's called, but occasionally this shoal does turn into a different type of shoal where you have the ability to earn fish that are either one higher or one lower than the current fish you're going after. So in our case, it's going to be yellowfins as well as marlins. It's occurring right now, actually. Here we have what is known as a, if I could just simply right click on it, a glistening shoal instead of bluefin. Glistening shoal is now going to offer us the yellowfins. You can actually kind of see it in the water right there. I guess to further explain trawling, whenever the shoal is on the move like this, you're not going to catch too many fish, although it is important to stick with it in order to maximize your gains. But where you earn the big bucks and catch all the fish is when the shoal stops moving at these highlighted squares. Now, whenever the shoals pause like this, you are going to have to adjust your nets one time. So that's all there is to it. It's not overly complicated. And of course, the plugin does help. It just tells you exactly when you need to do it. But if you're not really a plugin Andy and you're kind of averse to it, it's honestly not too hard to figure out without the plugins. I mean, heck, I managed to do this during the first few weeks of release when there was little to no information and definitely no plugins. So by no means is this hard to figure out. And as you fish, fish are going to end up in your net, in which you can right click collect from. Now I did this once already, And once you right click that option, you have the ability to collect it to your inventory or send it to the cargo hold. And if you have fish crates in there, they'll go directly into the fish crates. You do have to keep that in mind as there is a cap to how many fish you can hold in the nets. So for the past who knows how many minutes now, here I am explaining away trawling as if I'm some expert, and I just made a very embarrassing realization. Now, everything I explained in terms of the concept of trawling is correct. However, I am at the wrong location. If I had simply read the game chat or even right-clicked the shoal as soon as I got here, I would have known that this is a halibut shoal, and the glistening shoal that occasionally occurs offers up yellowfins, which is exactly what we saw when we saw the glistening shoal, but I didn't connect the dots then. Where are the bluefins? I do believe they're also somewhere in this area. Maybe it's this one south of Sunbleak after all. Let's head on over there and find out. And as we make our way over there, over on 416 Hero, we've been crafting away, and I did have to downgrade back to rubies as we're out of diamonds once again. But that is not an issue whatsoever because we just hit 90 crafting. We are done for now. You can see here, members can now craft onyx amulets, redwood birdhouses, that's the big ticket, break down armadillion armor, and fortify Missouri armor. Well, I've really enjoyed my time here at the Mist Guild. As I discussed previously, this is a very nostalgic area for me as I've spent countless hours bank standing at this specific spot, doing various skills to 99. But we can't get too cozy here. We gotta step back out and do 99 agility, because we could just as easily stand here for the next hundreds of hours doing herb lore, crafting, and even fletching if we choose to go that route. I still haven't exactly decided on the exact methods there, but the point is, let's not get too cozy. Let's get out of here. Let's head back to the rooftops. As we sail the ocean looking for the correct shoal we should be at, I will say though, fishing halibuts was not a complete waste of time. Halibuts are actually a better Karambwan, more or less. Now, is this the correct shoal? Bluefin shoal, alright. We're at the correct location now. Let's get to it. Just as we had the glistening shoal at the halibut shoal area, we have the vibrant shoal, and this one is going to net us marlins. We've been out here for quite some time. Let's go ahead and check our cargo hold and see what the situation is like. We still have a whopping 43 crates left, so each crate here is going to be 10 fish, so 59 bluefins, that's 590. Not too bad. And earlier we had that mishap of going to the halibut shoal instead of the bluefins, so we got 100 halibuts there. And then through the other types of shoals that occasionally appear, we've gotten 20 yellowfins and a whopping 100 marlins. That's actually really good. And then these are, I guess, extra ones that didn't quite yet fill up to a crate. So we haven't been out here too long, but I think I'm ready to get back to Vardorvis. So let's get these fish cooked up and then gear back up again. Making my way to Vardorvis, let's pick up where we left off at 1800 KC. Let's take a look at the collection log again real quick. We're missing the Executioner's Axe Head and the pet as we're rudely interrupted by some strangled. Relatively recently, we managed to get 1 gold ring, so we're 1 out of 3 on the Ultor ring. Let's see if we can get another ring. Other than that, unfortunately, it's been pretty quiet here at Vardorvis. And now in the background, instead of crafting, we're running laps. This might be a little bit more difficult. KC 1811, we got ourselves a blood quartz. That's something, but that wasn't what I had in mind. Completely different day now, and we're currently working on KC 1900. A nice little milestone there, and while I did initially say we were going to get to 2000, I think I'm going to have to call it after this one. I've been doing some thinking along the grind with this, and honestly, it's crazy to say, but I'm getting burnt out from Vardorvis, I think. And my eyes are literally burning. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the intensity of the Vardorvis grind, or maybe it's the white backdrop, or maybe a combination of the two. And I don't even think I've been going that hard here at Vardorvis. I've been spacing out the grind a fair bit, but every time I come here, before long, my eyes quite literally feel quite dry, so yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've had this issue at God Wars as well with the white backdrops. But KC 1900. We get 67 adamant ore. Let's get out of here. Let's go over to the POH and restore our stats. Admittedly, it does feel a little bad about setting our 2000 KC goal and then not meeting it. However, we always had the stance of maintaining flexibility on this account and doing what we feel like in the moment, because at the end of the day, our main objective is to be maxing 416 hero, and we're just keeping ourselves occupied doing things we actually want to do on this account. And unfortunately, right now, another 100 more Vardorvis KC is not one of those things. And let's check in with 416 hero. We're back on the rooftops as I mentioned before, and we're just 112k EXP shy from 88 agility. Honestly, pretty good progress there, considering agility is a pretty slow skill relative to others, especially our previous grind of doing crafting, in which we have another 9 levels to go, but we'll return to that at a later date. Now, the ongoing thing in the background has always been Hunter, and we're just 10 birdhouse runs away from 88 Hunter. Looking ahead as to what's to come in terms of agility training, when we reach 90 agility, we're going to be transitioning over to the RD rooftops. Now, just as we had to take a step back from agility temporarily earlier to train our crafting levels up so that we would be ready for redwood birdhouses, when we reach level 90 agility, we will also be taking a step back before we actually do any RD rooftop courses, and that's to do the RD Elite Diaries. The RD Elite Diary is not only going to give us extra marks of grace, which is actually the less relevant thing for us, but it's also going to give us an EXP boost in terms of our hourly rates. So that's something we definitely have to do, especially considering that we're going to be looking at thousands upon thousands of laps at the RD rooftop. Not only that, but I believe the RD Elite Diary requires 90 or 91 smithing, and currently we are just 73 smithing. So all the previous conversations where we mentioned gold bars and gold ores, and we kind of ignored that at the end just to do crafting by means of battle staves and gems, well, we're going to have to deal with those gold bars anyways to train our smithing. Everything seems to work out quite well though, because obviously we're going to be going to the blast furnace where we're going to be doing a lot of running back and forth, and a higher agility level is certainly going to help with that. As for what's next on Wait For It, well, we're just going to have to wait for it because I need to rest my eyes. What's going on, everybody? Typically, I'd be recording my intro standing in my POH. However, ever since I announced my intentions to max this account, I'm trying to be a little more efficient with my time and just always be gaining EXP. Because obviously, you need to gain EXP to gain levels, and you need levels to reach max total level. Simple enough, but it's going to go a long way to maxing. Right now, we're specifically doing barbarian fishing. It's obviously going to gain fishing EXP, but it's also going to net us a little bit of agility EXP. It's not much, but once we get to 99 fishing, or along the way, we're going to gain enough EXP to save us a day or two, maybe even a little bit more than that, at the RD rooftops. Speaking of the RD rooftops, we're closer and closer to getting 90 agility. Not quite there yet, but we'll be getting that pretty shortly. However, once we get to 90 agility, we're actually going to take a step back from agility and work on some other things. This is because before we actually do the RD rooftop courses, we want to get RD Elite Diary done. Completing the diary not only nets us extra marks of grace, which is always nice, but it's also going to increase the EXP per hour, just like the Fremenic Diary did for the Relica course. We only have RD Easy done right now, and we meet most of the requirements to get Medium, Hard, and Elite done. But at the same time, there are some pretty steep requirements. One such thing is 91 smithing. While it is boostable, if my goal is to max, why would I boost, right? Let's just go ahead and get the levels. So 91 smithing, we're going to shoot for that at the blast furnace, and we're also going to need 65 rune crafting, in which we're going to visit Guardians of the Rift, I think. During the maxing grind, something that's always efficient to do is to do birdhouses for Hunter EXP. All you have to do is do a birdhouse run every 50 minutes or so, and with that, we hit 88 Hunter. Round and round we go, and we actually haven't been multi-logging as of late, just been focused on skilling on this one account, but upon the completion of this lap, we are hitting 89 agility. You can now use the Hard Revenant Cave shortcuts. Yeah, you won't catch me over there, I'm not gonna lie. Anyways, one more level until the RD rooftops. Well, first we're going to be doing diary and smithing as we discussed previously, but until then, let's keep going. A little behind the scenes action right now, still working on agility, but I decided to be smart and preemptively plant some of the things that we're going to need for the RD diaries that we're going to do once we hit 90 agility. Right now we're still just over 400k EXP away though. As it turns out though, I'm going to thank past me because I already planted strawberries here at the RD patch. This is going to be for the RD medium diary, but there's also going to be similar tasks for the hard and elite tiers respectively, I think. So I'm going to go ahead and do those. It's been a little while since I checked in on the lap count, but we just hit 3,000 laps. And there's probably going to be at least another 1,000 or so until 90 agility. As it turns out, it won't take us another 1,000 laps because as of right now, we are just 22,500 EXP removed from 90 agility. So we're going to be out of here sooner than later. Here we are on the final lap and we're going to be hitting 90 agility finally, but still another 9 levels to go. And as we know, 92 is the halfway mark. So we're a long ways away from being done with agility. So previously I discussed that we're going to have to work on the RD Elite Diary. Well, first we have to do medium and hard because I believe we only have easy on this account. But not only that, in order to accomplish those diaries, we're going to need 90 smithing, I believe, or 91, and we're actually going to need some rune crafting levels as well. But there we have it, 90 agility. You can now use the RD course. That is what we're after. All right, let's go take a look at the achievements here. In the achievement diaries, if we scroll down, we can see we have easy completed. We did that a long time ago. We don't have medium done, but we do meet all the requirements for that. It's just a matter of doing it. And in terms of hard tier, we're going to need to rune craft some death runes, I believe. Yep, right at the bottom. That's going to require 65 rune crafting. Currently, we're just sitting at 49. Just shy of 50 actually, so we're gonna have to figure out how to get 15 to 16 rune crafting levels. Now in terms of elite, we have almost all the requirements, but we're gonna need 91 smithing, so that's gonna be a big journey there at the blast furnace. The first order of business as we step away from the Relica rooftops is actually to do Tears of Guthix. I believe it's time. Honestly, I can't remember the last time I did Tears of Guthix. It was probably quite a while ago. I've not done a really good job of keeping up with this, but this should get us some sailing XP, which is going to be some free total levels. And we managed to snag ourselves a new PB, wow. I think there is some strategy to this, but I've never really figured it out. But we jumped from 24 to 31 sailing. That is absolutely massive, 7 total levels right there. In order to get from 49 runecrafting to 65, I've decided to do Guardians of the Rift. Now first things first, let's go ahead and open up the magic box that is group storage, and I'm going to steal 1 dragon pickaxe from myself. That's definitely going to be very useful here and down the line when we train mining, because we're only 71 mining. Now, Guardians of the Rift obviously is a runecrafting training method, but it is nice because we are going to gain a little bit of mining XP as well as crafting, I believe. So 3 skills in 1 minigame activity. Feels pretty good. But right now, the world is empty because I'm actually not on the Guardians of the Rift world, so let's get to that. And actually, I also have to clear my inventory, but we'll get situated and start doing Guardians of the Rift. Alright, we've made it into the mass world. Plenty of people are standing around and waiting to get into the next room. Actually, yeah, because we're here for the first time, I have to go through a bunch of dialogue. There we go. Now, it's been a long time since I did any Guardians of the Rift. In fact, I think the last time I was here, I completed my robe set on wait for it, and then I just noped out. And then to get to 99 runecrafting, I just camped myself at Zaya runecrafting for the rest of the time, so don't really quite remember how to do this minigame, but we'll figure it out, and plus we're in the mass world, so these games should be fine regardless. I know for a fact things would be a lot better if we had any rune pouches, but at the moment we don't. But I think we can get them from this minigame itself instead of having to go into the abyssal area by means of fairy ring, so yeah, we'll just see what happens after a couple of games, and then hopefully we start getting some goodies. And we just hit 50 rune crafting, and I still have no idea what's going on. Still figuring out the game. We actually hit that level 50 off of completing the first game. I'm not sure if that actually counted as a full game for us on the high scores or anything like that, but nevertheless, we're going to begin mining now onto the next game, and I went ahead and turned on Entity Hider. Seeing all these people here was cool for all of 2 seconds until I realized I couldn't even see where my character was or what was going on, so we're going to go ahead and turn on Entity Hider, although I can see other people's pets still, so that's pretty cool. I should really look up a guide or something, but I think it's coming back to me on the fly. So, in the beginning, you want to mine these Guardian Fragments, and you need to turn these Guardian Fragments into Guardian Essence. However, sometimes you can get Guardian Essence straight up, as there's these portals that will send you to the side of the rooms in which you will get Guardian Essence straight up. But that's not always going to happen, and that happens on a clock of some sorts, I think. So we do want to make sure we're in a certain rotation. So let's go ahead and craft some water runes right now. Maybe I should have gone for the chaos runes just for better EXP, but that's actually another thing we have to concern ourselves with in terms of reward points. We're going to need a balance between the elementals and the catalytic energy. So yeah, we got to keep our eye out on that. So cosmic, for example, is catalytic, and then fire is an elemental. So we have to find a balance on that. And there is the aforementioned portal. Let's go ahead and go in there real quick. And when we mine from this, instead of getting fragments, we're going to get Guardian Essence straight up. Now, because we don't have any rune pouches right now, unfortunately, we're not really making great use of it or taking full advantage. We need 54 rune crafting for long runes. Yeah, we don't have that yet. So let's go ahead and I guess we'll do mind runes. But yeah, we're not getting very much EXP and not really getting our money's worth right now for our efforts because of our lack of rune pouches, but hopefully we will be getting some. While we're doing the Guardians of the Rift minigame on 416 here, coincidentally we're also doing some rune crafting on Wave 4. We're upkeeping our blood runes right now. Didn't really feel like getting into too much, and as I stated earlier in the video actually, I've been single logging for the most part. But I brought myself to log into this account again, and I'm just doing a nice chill activity in the background. So that is another game completed, and actually looking at the chat box now, the very first game we did not count because we joined midway through. I don't think we did enough for it to count as a KC. But let's go ahead and search the rewards guardian. We do have a point or two, and we got 15 abyssal pearls. That is very lucky. That is a collection log right there. And abyssal pearls are the currency for this location. So if we talk to Apprentice Felix right here, this is where we can get the Guardians of the Rift outfit, as well as the Ring of the Elements. I'm actually not sure what the Guardian's Eye is, and all these talismans. If you're in the middle of a quest, especially Morning's End Part 2, in which you need the Death Talisman, I believe, or maybe some other quests, I think one of the fairy tale quests, you might potentially need a talisman, a nature talisman, which is terrible to get otherwise. You could do Guardians of the Rift. But anyways, let's go ahead and put those pearls away and these runes away, actually. And let's get back in there for another game. Being that we're only here to get to 65 rune crafting, I don't really expect to unlock anything. So with that being said, I'm going to get on with the grind, and I'll check in if anything notable does happen. But we're going to get to 65 rune crafting and then move on with the other RD diary requirements. Up to 3 games now. Let's go ahead and claim some rewards, see if we can get lucky. Just a bunch of runes. Ooh, a large pouch. That is pretty nice. And 16 pearls. Okay. All right. I mostly exited just because, not that I was particularly interested in the rewards at that point in time, but I did realize I already have some rune pouches. I guess they're just called like small pouch, medium pouch, but I made the realization I already had this. And then we're also going to go ahead and take our rune pouch out. And you know what? Unfortunately, since we're not 99 magic yet, I'm going to have to go TP to the POH to switch over to the lunar spellbook. And I will explain that in just a second. All right, as we switch spellbooks here, we want to be on the lunar spellbook for the NPC contact spell. This is because whenever you use the pouches for the rune essence, they eventually degrade. Now this is only prevented by being 99 rune crafting. That's just one of the perks, I believe. Otherwise, you're going to have to make your way over to the Abyss area where there's an NPC in the center that you have to speak to repair your pouches. But with the power of NPC contact, we should be able to just directly communicate with that NPC so we can stay at Guardians of the Rift and repair our pouches as we go. Assuming we have the right runes for that, so let's go back to Guardians of the Rift and then get sorted out on that. Just as an example, I'm going to go ahead and do that now. NPC contact requires astral runes, cosmic runes, and 2 air runes. So cast NPC contact, and then let's see if we can find the correct NPC to talk to here. I believe it is the Dark Mage, if I'm not mistaken. Well, that was a little awkward. That was not the dialogue I was anticipating, but perhaps that's just because my pouches are in perfect condition, so there's no use talking to him right now. But let's hop back into the Guardians of the Rift Mask world and continue our games. I would like to point out, now that we're back in the game, there is a method to repair your pouches here at Guardians of the Rift without leaving and without the NPC contact spell. But it requires payment with Abyssal Pearls. Honestly, not a great use of Abyssal Pearls if you ask me. You want each and every single one of them to go towards your Guardians of the Rift outfit, because that skilling outfit is by far the best skilling outfit that I can think of. The angler one is kind of whatever. I suppose it's kind of neat. The anglerfish one for fishing does enable you to start fishing minnows, and spirit anglers is kind of nice, but it just does not compare to the bonus runes you can get out of the Guardians of the Rift one. And then I'm trying to think of the other outfits right now. The fire making one is, I mean, it's only useful for Wintertodt itself. The EXP boost in all the skilling outfits is honestly not too big of a deal, except for maybe if you're considering going for 200 mil EXP, but I mean, not too many people have that as a goal. Same thing applies to the wood cutting one and the mining one as well. Although I do believe getting a prospector's piece is actually a Falador diary requirement, so you may as well go for that, I suppose. Graceful used to be really good once upon a time, but I'm not even using it here now because of the stamina changes over the years. Yeah, like it's just not an issue anymore. Although I will be using that outfit at Blast Furnace. That's probably the only location in which you would really quote-unquote need the Graceful outfit. Alright, not that my pouches necessarily need a repair at this given time, but I went ahead and tried the NPC dialogue again, and it just disappeared, so I'm wasting runes. But let's go ahead, just for the video, we speak to the Dark Mage. He does ask, can't you see I'm busy, but now I have the option to ask him to repair my rune pouches. Alright, now we know that works. I've actually not done that before. At least I don't remember having to do that. Ooh, we got ourselves a giant pouch. Another 16 Abyssal Pearls? Like I said before, it's been a long time since I've been here at Guardians of the Rift, but I feel like I've been getting very lucky on these Abyssal Pearls. If we look in our bank here, we already have 63, and we don't have too many completions. In fact, you can see right here, we only have 8 rifts closed. So I don't know if I'm just getting incredibly lucky or if they've made changes over the years since I've last been here at Guardians of the Rift. Just hit level 54 rune crafting, which is actually a pretty huge level because that unlocks law runes. Now I can do that in the rotation when it pops up. Being low level at Guardians of the Rift is honestly a little unfortunate because there's only a very few amount of runes or these talisman things, these altered things that you can actually get through. So yeah, the higher level you are, the better. Speaking of levels, we picked up this giant pouch earlier and I kept it in my inventory forgetting that there's a level requirement to use this. This actually requires a level 75 requirement, but we'll be out of here before then. Down the line though, we will return to Guardians of the Rift obviously to pick up the full outfit. But for right now, our sole objective is just to get to 65 rune crafting. Over the course of our maxing grind, I've made it a point to do my birdhouse runs whenever possible. But I think on this Guardians of the Rift grind, this is going to have to be an exception. I did initially teleport out and do a run, but then I realized how inconvenient this is because oftentimes I would teleport out in between games, and by the time I come back here, The game is midway through in progress, and it's kind of awkward. It's like, do I join in? Can I join in? Sometimes the world is full. So I think with that being said, I'm going to pass up on the hunter levels or hunter EXP from birdhouses for now, and then we'll continue doing it when it's a more convenient time to do so. For example, when we get to the smithing, it's going to be very easy for us to TP out and do one because we can just come right back to Blast Furnace and continue gaining smithing XP. But in terms of Guardians of the Rift, there's only X amount of games that happen per hour, so we're going to have to stay here as long as we can. Well, I wasn't quite expecting this. Finished another Guardians of the Rift game, level 56 runecrafting level now, so 9 levels to go. But we hit 1950 total. We were a bit far away from that goal, actually, or that milestone, but we did do that Tears of Guthix recently, which put us at 31 runecrafting, or sailing. Runecrafting on the mine, but we are up to 31 sailing. Still a ways away from 2k, and definitely quite far away from max total level. Another Guardians of the Rift game down, and honestly, I did not expect this, so I accidentally closed out the little pop-up, but we just hit 60 runecrafting, so that's 5 more levels to go until we get out of here. But once again, I am going to have to return at a later date for the outfit for sure. We all know the runecrafting skill is infamous for being one of the slowest skills in the game. However, I still did not expect to get from 49 to 65. This would end up being a multi-day process. But here we are at 62 runecrafting, and hopefully today we get to 65. We're currently a few more Guardians of the Rift games removed from hitting 65, and then we'll be out of here. Before that, well, along the way we hit 72 mining, which I feel like is a pretty significant level for some reason. Can't pinpoint it, maybe this will tell us. No, not that. I'm not really interested in that. It might be a quest requirement of some sort. Anyways, like I said, we're a few games removed from 65 and we'll be out of here. But before we leave, we're definitely going to pull a whole bunch of rewards because if you can see at the top right here, we have a whopping 107 points and we're definitely going to be snagging a few more of those. So yeah, we're going to be pulling a lot of points. We'll see if we can get enough Abyssal Pearls to start building towards our Guardians of the Rift skilling outfit. I don't actually know what it's called. Robe of the Eye? Yeah, I think that's what it is. Midway through this game, we have finally reached our goal, 65 rune crafting. We can now craft death runes, but let's go ahead and finish out this game just so we get our points, and then we'll see what our loot is. But we are officially done for now anyways. Down the line, we're going to be coming back for the full Guardians of the Rift robe set. Alright, we are officially done with Guardians of the Rift for now. We have 117 reward points available to pull, but just before we start doing that, for reference, let's check our bank here, and we do have some Abyssal Pearls already, 93 from pulls we did earlier. Initially, I was just pulling the rewards sporadically, but I decided to hold on to them for one big pull at the end of the session, and we'll see if we have enough to get at least one of the rope pieces. Well, let's begin. I suppose let's do a big search because 117 points is going to be a lot to get through. Okay, right away we're already getting some pearls, and oh, I got baited. I thought that was the Abyssal Needle. However, we do get an intricate pouch. I don't know what that does really. We're up to 180 pearls now. 210, wow, okay. Things are looking up. We get a catalytic talisman. Could come in handy, potentially. In our inventory, it's starting to fill up. A lot of talismans, a lot of runes. And yeah, let's go ahead and open these pouches. What do you actually get from them? You need at least 2 free... Okay, let's sort out our inventory real quick. But I already think we have enough pearls for at least one piece of the outfit. So that's kind of surprising. Let's go ahead and bank all these runes. A variety of runes is always nice. Okay, the intricate pouches will just give us even more runes. All right. And I think we have, yeah, we still have another 30 pulls to go. 32. Elemental Talisman, which is actually not a collection log. Why is the Catalytic Talisman a collection log, but not the Elemental? Interesting. Anyways, that's all our points for now. Let's go ahead and take out the abyssal pearls from earlier. We have a whopping 468. Now let's take a look at the shop and check the prices. The hat is 400. Rope top is 350. The rope bottoms are 350. And the boots are 250. So I don't know how you guys like to do this when it comes to the outfits, but I'm going to go ahead and get the hat first because it's the most expensive. I don't know, just a psychological thing maybe. You know, if we go for the most expensive piece first, it feels like we're making more progress. So I'm going to go ahead and get the hat of the eye right now. Now there is a full set bonus, but I do believe each individual piece also gives you a little bonus. So it's good to get a piece whenever you can. So there we go, we have the hat.